Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jacqueline Dorsey of Lean Frontiers and I'll serve as your host today. I'm excited to bring to you today a short webinar on Lean IT facilitated by Darren Hogg, Director at eBECS. Darren has over 20 years experience in manufacturing to promote the concepts of Lean working together with ERP. I have a couple of notes for you before we begin our webinar. The first is we will be doing a Q&A session at the end of this, so if you have any questions that come up, feel free to ask those on your panel. There should be an icon where you can ask those and we can address them at the end. Also, the webinar will be recorded if you want to refer back to it later. So for now, I'm going to turn things over to Darren.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Good afternoon, everybody. Or I should say good morning. It's actually afternoon for myself. I'm currently sitting in the UK, although I do live in the US. So forgive me if I sound a little jet lagged. Just slowly getting up to speed over here. What I want to do today is just chat with you about things that we're doing to bring ERP and lean manufacturing together. As Jacqueline said, I have over 20 years experience in the manufacturing industry, starting life as a tool and die maker and eventually working my way through various manufacturing facilities and getting involved in lean along the way. My first introduction to lean was probably at the age of 20 when I worked for a manufacturing company that made beer and Coca-Cola cans, and we had warehouses full all over the country of fresh air, and we did a whole lean transformation and worked out how we should, meet customer demand without carrying inventory. So that was my first experience of it. At the time, I didn't realize how we put pull systems into place and everything else. It was only later in life that it all sort of fitted together when I worked for Weicker Instruments, where we went through a large lean transformation in 2001. What we realized during that lean transformation in 2001 that to meet our customers' needs, we needed speed, we needed agility, we needed to do a lot of things to get the product to the customer in a quicker time, and to make that happen, to utilize technology. And that's really when I got involved in enterprise resource planning and, from sales order entry through shipment, how we could speed that up. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is really where I've came since then, since 2001, and where eBECS and ERP has come to really take on the need for speed, agility in the lean environments we live in today. So my agenda is just, probably a short webinar today. I'm hoping that we actually can open it up to a lot of questions. So feel free to type those in, and Jacqueline will take them, and we can field them at the end or during the call. But what I want to talk to you today about is, how to use ERP to support your lean enterprise. A lot of companies really struggle to kind of understand how MRP and lean work together, and I think that's really from the days where MRP was that weekly routine or that nightly routine that you would run, and you would look at the results and you'd execute, and where MRP would group things together, and all the things that were put in place to really facilitate batch manufacturing, and where we had large setup times, etc. And really how that's all changed. How MRP is something that can be ran every time you take a sales order, how it's focused on how you can put it in place to focus on flow. And then with all the things that companies do, like SMED events, etc., to reduce setup, how you can really look to sort of take setup time out of it or leave it in, but make it dynamic. So based on what ran before to what run next, the next product, then your setup time might change. And then really, the bigger part of it all is it's not just ERP, it's not just MRP, it's how you put a technology platform in place to run your business. Today we deal with so much mobile, we deal with so many dashboards, we deal with various tools that now facilitate technology. None of us are all just sitting in front of one device, we're sitting in front of multiple devices, that are constantly feeding us information, or we're constantly looking for information on those devices, and that can help in your manufacturing, supply chain, distribution environment. So this is a slide that I've used on numerous occasions, and it's one that's probably been around for a while, but I think one of the biggest things that we, that came around really when I first started getting involved in Lean, and especially in 2001 when we got involved with Lean manufacturing at Wyker, was we felt the system was creating a lot of complexity. The system would slow down the process, and as we put Lean manufacturing cells in on the floor, we found that we could produce a product in minutes, yet it took hours, if not days, to take the sales order, feed the sales order into the cell, produce the product and then ship it. So we found really, a huge percentage of the lead time was because of the system, and that we also found that, people like to bring complexity into systems, and systems actually, in a lot of ways, can lead to complexity. So it's been a big challenge. And it's a challenge that within eBECS we've taken on from day one. Our mantle has always been keep it simple, and we focus heavily on bringing the system and a lean business as close together. Discussing how can you remove transactional waste where it is, where do the transactions bring value, and if they do bring value, how can we make those transactions happen really quickly. And this is, just to emphasize it, what we found was, that you've got processes, that, you've got all this technology, and then you've got people, and what tends to happen is that you get a lot of, frustration from the people. They can't get the information they need. The system's too slow. Why does it make me do this? And then you get on the process side where, people feel alienated by process, by the system. The system doesn't match with what we're trying to achieve. It causes a lot of problems. And then you have technology where, if you have a bad process, technology is really good at speeding up a bad process. So sometimes you end up with a lot of automated chaos. So the idea is, and the focus has to be, is bringing those three things together: the people, the process, the technology, and providing the organization with something that will, drive speed, drive agility, improve customer satisfaction, and reduce cost. So, big question that probably a lot of companies ask themselves, and especially when you're in an ERP discussion. ERP discussions don't come around every year. I imagine most companies that have been through an ERP implementation are sitting there going, gosh, I don't want to ever go through that again, because it can be a painful experience for an organization, and definitely when organizations have done big bang ERP, it can be quite painful. What we find now is the idea of doing more of an agile approach, more of a business-driven approach, rather than, hey, here's the holy grail, work it out together, bring the three things together: technology, people, and process, and it will become the backbone. Why does it become the backbone? Well, when you have really good business processes in the ERP system, then it reinforces those, it standardizes, everybody knows, hey, I take a sales order, it does this, it calculates my availability of inventory, it calculates my availability of capacity if I don't have any. This is my standard process to get the customer a date. Okay? It increases your speed, increases your agility. If you don't have one product available, then the system can recommend a different product that meets maybe the same attributes that the customer is looking for. It allows you to measure things. So if you don't measure, you can't improve. Okay, so the plan, do, check, act. ERP systems support this heavily because the information is readily available, it's easy to extract. In Dynamics AX, you can hit Control-T and it's in Excel in a moment, or you can have a analytics server where it's pulled in and you've got all kinds of cube data. You can get instant feedback from measurements. Okay, the system instantly communicates. So a great example of that is we have a customer with a fixed lead time concept. So the idea being their standard product is available in a day, their make-to-order products 5 days, their engineered products 20 days. Well, if they don't have the standard product on the shelf, then it immediately creates an alert down to planning to say, hey, we've just received a sales order for something that we should have available. What are we going to do? So it's immediate communication, immediate feedback. Okay. Like I say, with an ERP system today, it provides you a foundation for continuous improvement. Okay. It provides you visibility throughout the organization. We have things like flow reports. Where is the inventory? How long has it sat there? If it's sat there more than 24 hours, send an alert to someone to say this inventory hasn't moved, etc. And more than anything, ERP breaks down all these departmental silos and people start working to meet the customer's needs across the whole organization. So I think it's a very powerful tool. Any organization that I have implemented Dynamics AX with Lean has benefited from that implementation. On the opposite side, it's how can the Lean Enterprise support an ERP system, right? It helps you focus on your key principles. So a great example of that is on-time delivery to a customer. If you think about the old days where we'd have this big forecast and we'd throw it over the wall, manufacturing would produce all this inventory and it'd go on the shelf, and when it didn't sell, and sales would blame manufacturing for having the wrong stuff, and overall happened, it just created all this waste. Okay, and the customer got lost in the process. With a good lean environment, with a good ERP system, then your customer is your focus. You're able to bring on your on-time delivery metrics, improve those. You'll be able to you look at which customers, what their ordering patterns are. If you can go back to your customer and say, hey, currently you order from us monthly. Can you order from us weekly? We've done the calculations. So there's a lot of value that comes when you're looking at your customer through an ERP system. Like I've said before, ERP removes departmental silos because it makes you want to move things faster across the organization. You don't want anything sitting in one place. Okay. The one thing that we all focus on, and especially if any of you have done business process Kaizens, is that non-value added. Not the necessary non-value added, but the non-value added. Okay, it helps you provide where you've got non-value added, and it looks at ways to remove it. What also happens though is where you have the necessary non-value added, you can define rules in the system and have the ERP system make decisions for you, not have a person make those decisions, and it will overall improve the process. Okay, and the other thing that ERP does, it helps you look at where all your transactional volume is. So you can start balancing your organization based on where your transactional volume is and where your complexity is. So what happens now is where you maybe had a lot of people in your order entry department, you can reduce the number of people in your order entry department because they're just entering orders now, but you've added complexity into planning because planning is getting signals when you can't meet your service level agreement. So you move some people into planning so you can better focus on the customer's needs. This is something I'm going to drill down a little further into the different areas, and there's a few slides in here. Like I say, I've tried not to put too much PowerPoint together. I know it can it can take away from the message, but some of the biggest challenges that I find with when I'm working with lean companies. I was up at the Royal Canadian Mint last week. They're a great lean organization. They're constantly challenging themselves to work out how they can do better lean, but one of the big challenges for the Canadian Mint is they have products with a very short life cycle. They produce something and they sell 85% of it will be sold in the first month. So they have to become really good at forecasting, and they have to become really agile in manufacturing to meet those customer demands. The big thing for them is how do they fit the master planning system, because they are forecast driven, and lean execution together. So that's something I've been working with them on, is something I've worked with other organizations on too. Another thing that's really important is developing a plan for every part. No part, you can group parts and say this part will plan this way, and this part will plan this way, and this part will plan this way. ERP systems help you fit those products into certain groups. It also gives you the information to tell you that, hey, a product that was a runner has moved to being a repeater, that is moving to be a stranger. So as that product goes through its life cycle, you can put a different plan in place, a different coverage, a different Kanban methodology to manage those things. The other thing that MRP in the past did is, I'd enter an order and eventually shipping would get a packing slip and there'd be a production order created and a planned production order created, and you just lose visibility of that order once it's in the system. Customer would ring in and go, hey, where's my order? And sales will go, oh, I don't know, let me call planning, let me call shipping. Now, customer rings in within AX, you can go in and immediately see where your order is. It's in the manufacturing cell, it's been started, it's planned to be finished here, it's already been picked in shipping. There's great visibility for a salesperson to be able to give the customer. You can even push that visibility out into the web and have the customer check themselves. The other thing that's really important is for a lot of organizations, well, we're not fully lean. Do we have to be 100% lean before we implement this? No organization will solely run a lean enterprise, will solely run cells. A lot of organizations have process manufacturing where you've got big machines and you're producing into an inventory level or wherever. But within those organizations, you can manage process, you have byproducts, co-products, but you can create flow too. You can help flow, you can overlap, you can schedule, you can do a lot of things within that mixed mode operation. Okay, and then the other thing is with how do you meet the needs of financing without creating a whole bunch of transactional burdens? So an example of that is, I want my customer to order weekly, but I don't have to, invoice him weekly, or, can I find a better way of improving my invoicing process? Can I go to vendor managed inventory? All these things that you can do to remove the financial burden, or the burden that goes onto finance when you go into that lean world. So let's just chat a little bit about MRP. This is something that my professor, when I was doing my master's degree, told me. He was like, Darren, what is the currency of the next century going to be? And I'm telling you how old I am because it was the last century that I did my master's degree. And he said it's going to be time. And I think we all can agree that. We see how much money that is spent on healthcare. We see how much money we spend on on so many different things in life to gain time. So time is really the currency we're all working to. And it's time is what our customers are working to. They expect things to be delivered in a short amount of time with a lot of value. And you see that today with, I order something on Amazon and it turns up the next day. Or it even turns up the same day now. Suddenly we've all put a lot of emphasis on time. So a traditional MRP system, as we used to think about it, was, I'd enter the customer order, the system would check the stock, and there was none, so master planning would run overnight, and it would batch things together. So the customer order that I entered, then, well, I'm not going to actually make it this week. I'm going to make it 2 weeks from now because I want to keep my setup times down, and all these different things. I'll create planned orders that then would get made into firmed orders, and just the whole process would take so much time, and it's all waste, right? And finally you do the work. The value-added piece was such a small part of that. So what do you do with MRP? Yes, you still want to use it because you want to use it for your planning, you want to use it for your scheduling, but you want to use the customer demand as your execution piece. So yes, use MRP, work out your, how much inventory I might need of my raw materials with long lead times, how much capacity might I need in the future, which areas of my organization are going to change, what do I need to do. But when you get that sales order, take that sales order, load it into the system, create a pull signal, make the product, ship the product, or pull a product from inventory, ship it, and have it replaced with a Kanban. Use lean execution so you have a pull point and a push point. Okay? Within that lean execution phase, you want to make sure things are frozen. You don't want the customer to be able to change things. So really you want to make sure that lean execution phase is a very short period of time, because you still want the customer to have some flexibility. But when he calls back in and says, hey, I want to do this, well, sir, we've already started making your order. You know, if you want to increase it, then yes, we'll put another order in. You want to decrease it, maybe there's some consequences because you're meeting his demands really quickly. There's a certain agreement that he has to meet also. Okay, from that, pull point, MRP, then you can lead into things that help you with your scheduling on the floor. You can use high uncle leveling. So remember that product that we were going to keep in inventory that under Kanban? When I have spare capacity, I'll drag that in and I'll level my capacity. So that helps with the capacity planning within the lean execution. I'm still using MRP for my long-term S&P view, everything, but I'm using high uncle leveling for that short-term lean execution. Okay, that's just a couple of things around MRP. I could talk about probably MRP and lean for hours. So, if somebody wants to buy me a drink at the Lean Accounting Summit, I'll be happy to spend hours, discussing how we can improve the world in MRP and lean. So, a nice glass of Pinot Noir will be my fit. So, if you want my time, I recommend, that's what you put in front of me. Next thing I want to chat about is that plan for every part. One of the biggest challenges for organizations is how do I get my ERP system to help me manage my products? And what you'll find with Dynamics AX and the Lean Enterprise and all the different pieces in there, we have a tool now that helps you with runners, helps you with repeaters, helps you with strangers. We have different Kanban types, a manufacturing Kanban, a withdrawal Kanban where I'm pulling from inventory, a purchase Kanban where I'm now connecting my supplier into it, and I'm putting Kanbans across my product for the runners. Okay, but the strangers, I maybe want to use a capable to promise MRP tool because I can't give the customer a service level agreement on a stranger, so he's going to have to maybe wait a little bit longer if I have to order materials and everything else. But if I give that customer a date that I can reach and meet, then generally the customer will be okay with that. He wants to know that you're going to give him 100% on-time delivery based on the date you've returned. So the plan for every part is very important, that you fit your strangers into the right bucket, you fit your runners into the right pocket, you fit your repeaters into the right bucket. The other thing that you need is visibility, right, of your supply chain. So you want to be able to make sure as the products are being pulled out by manufacturing and being processed through to ship to your customer, you're getting immediate signals back to your suppliers. Maybe your supplier's in the building next door, maybe your supplier's in another country, but we're using technology and not waiting for a batch routine or anything else. You can immediately generate a purchase Kanban. You can give them you can have vendor managed inventory on the system so they can see you without having to walk in and look on the shelf. You have visibility into any subcontracting you do. So if something is out at a subcontractor, I can see when it was sent to them, how long it's there, how much capacity they have, when do I expect it back. You have a portal to help you communicate and give real-time updates. Okay, so supply chain visibility, I think, is probably one of the most important things. As you change your organization into a lean enterprise and cut inventory and cut lead times, you need your supply chain to do the same. And we see that very much in the automotive industry, more than anything else. And then the other thing that I think has changed, and especially from using ERP system, is we used to always look at reports that were 2 or 3 days old, and really by the time you looked at a report that's 2 or 3 days old in a lean enterprise, it's really a waste. What's the point? So you want to get measurements that drive action. You want measurements that are real time, that are feeding information back to the people in the floor. And this screen's a great shot of a real-time information that Wyker used to feed back into the shipping department. And this is something that was developed over time using the people, where we went out, we found a technology, the people explained their problems, and then we looked at how we can improve it and improve the process. This board was something where basically everyone knew that they really couldn't go home at the end of the day unless there was 100% on-time delivery. and they could see products as they were coming through the manufacturing process, when they became available, when to go get them. It was something that created a tremendous amount of visibility for the shipping department in WICA. WICA's on-time delivery probably jumped 5 or 6 percentage points just because of this board alone. The great thing about this board is the guy that was the head of the shipping department brought the idea to the IT department. The IT department got together, we looked at the process with the continuous improvement team, and we put the board together across the organization. It wasn't something that IT dreamt up and said, hey, go use this. It was the organization looking for things that would drive action. Here's a couple other ones. So this is something that we're using actually at the UK Mint. And the UK Mint have real-time Gantt charts on the floor that provide immediate feedback to the area that, the machine that's being run. And this one is showing, hey, you have maintenance scheduled between 8 and 4 o'clock every day. But on outside of the maintenance hours, these are the production orders you're supposed to run. Hey, by the way, you don't have any material. This is how much setup time. This is what you've produced. So this is immediate feedback. It's also, updates every 10 minutes. This is something that is available on the floor, but it's also available in a dashboard for management to look at. And then one of the other things that we've done for them is a simple thing called flow reporting, where we defined the maximum length of time a product should sit. And once it's exceeded that length of time, then it's gone outside of the flow hours, and that's something that somebody should then take action on. The great thing with the second report is the blue that you're seeing on the screen. If I actually clicked on that within AX, I can drill down and I can do full traceability on that product. I can see if it's under quarantine, it's got a quality order against it, if there's been a non-conformance. I have all that information right at my fingertips, straight from a report within AX. Okay, and like I say, so within a mixed mode organization, you've got all kinds of flexibility from sales orders, Kanbans, purchase orders, production orders. We cover it all now, so you don't have to worry about that mixed mode flexibility. Okay, so ERP and Lean. Gosh, everyone says, well, what software is required? Or a lot of Lean people say, well, I don't need software. I think we all know that software is super important. It's making sure that it doesn't slow down the process and it complicates the process. It keeps it simple and speeds it up. Okay, we need MRP because it is an important tool to sync the supply chain, to keep everything in line. It's an important tool when I'm taking a sales order. It's not a batch process, it's immediate calculations, look at availability of material, capacity, etc. We need Kanban calculations to make sure that we've got the right amount of inventory on the shelf. Okay? After we release the product to the floor, we want to be able to do some leveling. We want to be able to use Kanban real-time signals. We still need to issue material because maybe we need batch traceability because we've got serial number traceability, various things that are compliance requirements. We need to give the floor work instructions, drawings, and then a lot of times there'll be change, so we need an engineering change management solution to update the bills of material and keep everybody in line and in sync. Then we have to deal with movement. The more movement that we can not have in the system, and with the more movement we can create on the floor with simple flow lines, etc., the better, right? We don't need to track at every point in AX, but when we do track, we want to make it simple. Okay? We want to understand where our constraints are. We want to understand where our Kanban levels are really low, and therefore we need to work overtime to get our runners back into inventory. We want to understand where we've got product that's late, or a supplier that's now going to impact our supply chain. Okay? We want to create an exception-driven environment that we will then deal with. We don't want to deal with the monotony of just process, process, process. We want to look for the exceptions and take action. And like I said, we want to measure. We want to do flow reporting. We want to look at, our KPIs, what our quality like, what our traceability is like, etc., etc. So when you put all those things into place, what comes back is you have a lean, execution tool within your ERP. So you take a customer order, you check stock, you check capacity, you update the schedule, you feed that schedule down the floor, you do the work, you know, whether it's an MLO, MTO, ETO, MTS product, you're immediately, you know, getting that back to the customer, and overall you're able to now implement a fixed lead time concept, you're able to classify your products, and you're able to improve your on-time delivery. And that, you know, bringing all those things together, plan for every part, visibility, MRP, etc., they allow you to create that lean execution tool within your ERP. And then the other part that, you know, all comes apart, which is not an execution, you're allowed then to do your sales and operation financial planning, you're able to resize things, you're able to look at your dashboards, your capacity views, etc. Okay, here's a great picture of a report center where you can now start, you know, looking within your organization, where am I selling my product, how long does it take for me to deliver that product to my customer, should I maybe move my manufacturing plant, should I maybe move this manufacturing cell, you know, should I put a warehouse into place? All these things are now there that you can measure and bring back to the table to improve your customer satisfaction metrics. Okay, I feel like I've been talking for quite a while, so I'm going to try and get through this slide pretty quickly, but it is one that I think is very important, and that is the role of technology in manufacturing today. I think what, you know, if we look back 20 years ago, then, gosh, we'd have multiple systems for multiple areas, and a lot of the execution would be in one tool, a lot of planning was done in another tool, a lot of times the planning was done in something like Excel, etc. And what organizations have struggled with is, as they've been asked to speed up delivery, is having all those siloed systems, trying to bring them into one, have visibility, and then speed everything up. Because there's no point in speeding everything up if you don't have visibility of what you're trying to do. So what we found with Dynamics AX, if I showed you Dynamics AX 20 years, not 20 years ago, but probably 14 years ago, it was a discrete manufacturing solution. It didn't have process manufacturing, it didn't have lean manufacturing, it didn't have project manufacturing. But today, it covers process, discrete, lean, and project, all within one solution. With some additional add-ons that are out there in the partner market, then you can get things that help you with your ITAR compliance, help you with your FDA compliance. You know, there's some tools out there that help with your security to make sure that you're meeting your SOX compliance. So it's also helping you with your compliance, you know, within that manufacturing industry. More and more, I deal with medical device companies, definitely down in Costa Rica and such. They have a lot of FDA requirements that without a good ERP system to back it up, they end up with a lot of data collection in, you know, spreadsheets and, you know, handwritten documents, etc., that they need to kind of keep on top of. Okay. Biggest challenge that we all have is this, you know, as our customers become more demanding, is the focus is, well, we need to get better at forecasting. You know, and let's be honest, we're all pretty bad at forecasting, and especially the longer the lead time you got, the worse the forecast. So how can we improve that? Well, we can bring data analytics in from other areas. Like if you're in the construction industry, is it going to be a cold winter? Because if it's going to be a cold winter, then I would expect construction work going down. But I would also, if I'm in the oil and gas industry, then I would expect oil production to go up or gas production to go up if it's going to be a cold winter. So we can go out and bring those analytics and help you with your forecasting. The other thing that we can do now is connect your machines to the ERP system. So we start doing a thing called machine learning. So we learn from your machine. So next time we're doing more planning, etc., we can say, well, this machine needs gets a new insert or a new drill bit or etc. every 500 pieces. So we can plan for that and now start taking into consideration what tooling required are required when you're running a product. We can link into your front end, to your Salesforce, you know, give them the information out in the field, what's going on with the products, what's on time delivery, you know, look at leads, all that within the ERP system. If you've got customer self-service, the customer can log on and look themselves now. They don't need to call into your customer service department. And this is a big one to me. We create an exception-driven execution system. So many, you know, times if we went back and looked at our ERP implementations, MRP implementations, what we created was a transactional system. We didn't create an execution exception-based system. We created a transactional system where somebody firmed the production order, firmed the purchase order. We want to deal with exceptions. Exceptions are where humans bring value, okay? The monotony does not bring value. It's non-value added, okay? And then you've got things like your mobile device integration, which now is very important. So you're not having to rely on a clerk to input what production made today. Production can input it themselves by just scanning and entering the quantity from a mobile device. Platform uptime, stability is a big thing. Now you see Microsoft going to the Azure cloud, etc. And probably the one that I start to run into more and more is the millennium generation does not expect green screens. They do not expect people to be using all technology. They want to come in and they want to be using new technology. They want to be using touch screens. They want to be using mobile devices. Their expectations and when they're coming to join manufacturing companies are far greater now than they probably were 20 years ago, right? So we have to meet their expectations if we want to bring them into manufacturing and make manufacturing as stronger, and if it's not stronger. These are all the things that I've probably talked about, so I just really want to go back through this slide very quickly. These are things that Dynamic DX does for you, right? It brings you that visibility, gives you the visibility, creates a pull system, helps you with Kanban calculations. Okay, and the final thing I want to talk about is what you should look for in your technology partner. And I say technology partner because we realized that we're no longer an ERP partner. We're a technology partner. We have to have data analytics. We have to be able to understand CRM. We need to understand how SQL servers work. We need to understand all the different technologies, mobile device, etc. So we have now got to be a technology partner. We're not just your ERP implementer. But on top of all that, we've got to stay to our mantle, and that is keep it simple. We have a strong data analytics team to help with that. We take an agile approach to implementation because it's very important for us, for a customer to see value and constantly see value. Big bang approaches just don't work. The customer gives you the requirements, you go off, you do all this development, you come back and the customer looks at you like, what's that you just delivered? Okay, you want to do small, incremental, agile approach. We want to transfer knowledge because our goal in life is to make you as a customer capable of moving on without us. We're there to help you when you have the exception. We're not there to help you with the daily routine. Okay, we want to focus on understanding your business. That's very important. We need to be able to talk to your people about what you do, and that is, that's changed tremendously because everyone's business, if you talk to them, is different. Okay. We have great customer references and we're very Microsoft-centric. Why do we take the Agile approach to implementation? Here's a great example, right? 42% of the time, if you take the Agile approach, you will be successful. Very few failures, okay? So that's why we focus heavily on that within eBECS. And with that, I think I am through my presentation. I hope that you have all managed to stay awake. And what I'd like to do is take some questions and then just talk to you a little bit more about what we have going on at the Lean Accounting Summit. So back to you, Jackie.
All right. Well, thank you, Darren, for that. I don't see any questions that have come in so far yet, so I'll make a quick announcement while we're waiting. We do have this presentation available for you to download right now. If you look on your panel and you check the handouts tab, there should be a handout there where you can download the PowerPoint of this presentation. Looks like we still don't have any questions that have come in yet. Darren, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think the biggest thing is what I feel has happened in the industry, that being around manufacturing in the US for the last 20 years now, is we go through these cyclical cycles where I think, in 2001 we were very challenged as organizations, and lean became very important, and then we kind of grew fat and happy, and then various things come along, and then I think in 2009 we had a real wake-up call again, and probably a lot of organizations had to downsize, etc. But those organizations that were already on their lean journey, it was easy for them to go, well, hey, we're going to go from running 6 people in the cell down to 2 people in the cell, but guess what? We still have the standard work for 2 people. So those organizations were able to handle that really well. And when 2010 came around, people bounced back, and the lean organizations bounced back bigger than anything else. You saw that within Wyker, that 2010 was a great year for them because they were able to quickly bounce back when the market came back. And I think what we see now in the world is there's so many moving parts, and things move fast, and a lot faster than probably a lot of us would like. We need that flexibility. So lean is super important if you want to stay flexible, and then having a system that supports that flexibility is how you're going to continue to grow as an organization. We shouldn't be price focused, we should be quality. We should not be cost focused, we should be looking at what the market's willing to pay. And that's the big change that has to happen in manufacturing in the US. And as you come to the Lean Accounting Summit, you'll probably hear that message. You'll hear that message from me. I know you'll definitely hear that message from Brian.
All right, that's good to know. Still haven't gotten anything in, so what I think I'll do is, I don't know, Darren, if you have any contact information, people can reach out to you. They can feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah. Is my screen still being shown?
It is, yes.
Okay. So yeah, here's some resources, reading lists. Feel free to contact me, dhogg@ebecs.com. We will be at the Lean Accounting Summit. Super excited. The fact that it's at Sawgrass TPC is even better. I'm just waiting for Dwayne to send me my golf invite. Haven't received it yet. And then we'll also be at the AXUG Summit, which is out in Reno. For those of you that want to come to the Lean Accounting Summit, please register. It's a great event. I've always found it to be one of the best events for lean, but also just how to improve your business. It's not just about accounting, it's about lean management. It's about putting the things into place that make a lean organization tick. And it isn't just running Kaizen events in manufacturing. It isn't just running Kaizen events and business improvement events in your operations side. It's putting a 3-year plan together and creating teams and executing and bringing the whole thing together. And you'll hear some great stories. You'll meet some great people down there. So please register. If you register and use the eBECS promo code, then you get a little bit of a little kickback to buy me that glass of Pinot Noir.
All right. Well, to wrap things up for today, I want to remind you that the webinar is being recorded. So look for an email following our time together in order to get a link for the recording. And you can feel free to share this throughout your organization. So again, thank you, Darren, for facilitating today, and thanks to each of you, and thanks to each of you for participating in today's session. Goodbye.